I'm trying to make a way, hit the bank so ends can meet. Feed my family, if you don't grind, you weak. That was me about a year ago, scared to be a...
Hello everyone, and welcome back with Tokens Podcast. I'm here with your boy Hero.
What's up, guys?
So today we are joined by another special and talented guest that has been brought to you by our friends at Golden Pineapple. And today we are here with Lisa. She is a home grow consultant, a mother, and she met with our friends at Golden Pineapple at a Femme Fatale event. And so welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. So as I jump right in, could you just give our listeners a little bit of background about yourself and how you got started in the industry?
Well, my brand is GROWITHLISA. That's one W. And I kind of got thrown into it unexpectedly. DC, as you all know, DC is a recreationally legal state. We are not a fully legal state. We are allowed to grow and share our cannabis amongst each other. So I decided to take advantage of it. I'm a DC resident. Why not? And I went looking for some equipment one day and showed up to the store, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you want to set up?" I was like, "Yeah, can you set up for me?" They're like, "Sure." Will you be on TV? And I was like,
Right.
"Okay."
Sure. Yeah.
And then they came, and that was Weed Get before it. Weed Gets now.
Right.
So I didn't know who they were. There's a whole bunch of people in my house, and we were doing that, and it was actually the episode aired on 4/19/2016.
I did actually see that scene. It was they filmed that really well.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
So you just showed up to get equipment, and were they the store owners, or were they just so happen to be in the store at the same time?
No, it was actually the store owner. Somebody had told me to go to the specific store, Let's Grow DC, and Chris was the owner of the store. And he was there. I think they told me that that someone was coming to get equipment. I mean, they were looking for people. They were scouting.
Right.
It was just pretty much whoever said yes would have been on the show. And I just happened to be the person who said yes and followed through because nobody wanted to do it.
Right.
And I was like, what do you mean they don't want to do it? They don't want to be on TV? Then I thought about it after the fact. I was like, oh shit! Now the whole world knows I smoke weed.
Right.
Maybe that wasn't such the greatest idea, but it ended up working out because people started hitting me up like, I want to grow, Lisa, I want to grow, and I'm like, I don't know how to grow either. So I just I was able to connect with people, people that didn't know what they were doing. So I got some couple of consultants together, and we do events throughout the year, throughout the city, just encouraging people to do that, take advantage of the law. Why not?
Right, exactly. And so, what is it? I know that, currently in DC, it's you're allowed to have, is it 6 plants, 3 flowering, or something like that?
Yeah, it's depending on the number of adults they have in the house. It's you can have, if it's one adult, you can have up to 6 plants, with 3 of them being in the flowering stage.
Right.
Which that's just based off your lighting cycle.
Sure.
And then if you have 2 or more adults, the cap is basically 12 and 6 maturing. Okay, so it's
only 6 can be harvested at a time, and you can have up to 12 in a household per individual or per household.
Per household, yeah, because that's the cap. It's 12.
Okay.
It doesn't get any more.
It's not I got 5 roommates.
Right.
We have 50 plants.
No.
So I know you said it kind of just came on a whim. You know what I mean? You get into the industry. But during the time, I guess, when Weed Get, if I'm not pronouncing that right, Weed Get, yeah. Were you and I guess this is also during the time where the laws are really sort of changing in DC as well for the better. So did that discourage you at all? Were you sort of afraid at all getting into this industry, just considering just how heavy DC's been with crackdown on marijuana and stuff like that?
No, I was excited because it's a brand new industry, and people don't understand when there's a new market hasn't been created in years and decades. This is brand new. This is from the ground up. So if you have something and you can get in, you're good. You're in a really, really great position. So I just looked at it as it just gave me just the leg up into figuring out okay, what is it that I do to kind of keep my spot in this industry and be part of that $1 billion.
Was there like a certain niche in it that you found that like you were better at than, you know, your other growers or your other consultants that you've met?
You know, I think it's just my years, in the years of experience of just all the different things that I've done. It's what I'm doing now.
Right.
I sat down one day, I think I was applying for some government job, and I had to write down all the jobs I've ever had like, up until that point. And I was in like my early 20s, and I had like 30 jobs, and I'm like, geez, that's a lot. But now that I'm, you know, doing all these things, like I'm actually throwing together events. I'm writing contracts, you know, my event with my, restaurant stuff, you know, me writing contracts, me doing my paralegal work. You know what I'm saying? All those different things are just allowing me to put together these events. And everybody's just like, oh, wow, this is so great. Like, well, you just do it. You do it so well. You put these events together. I'm just like, you know, it's kind of second nature to me. But
so you have a background in paralegal?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah,
that definitely helps.
Yeah. It does. It's because the legal thing is very. It's you have to know the law when it comes.
Gray
to
waters
cannabis.
right now, right?
Yeah, and you have to know the law so that you don't put yourself in a position to not be included.
Sure.
Because, you know, it's a legal thing, and it's still illegal.
Right.
A lot of people don't.
Federally.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't grasp that fact that there are things that you can do right now that will exclude you from having access to the illegal cannabis industry.
Sure. And I heard overheard your conversation prior to us starting the recording, and one of the things that stuck out is when you said that like you don't want to you're kind of like teetering on the edge and don't want to like step your foot all the way into it just because of that aspect, I'm assuming, and that you don't want, I guess, like the negative connotations that come with that. You don't want to be one of the first ones and then have it like come down on you.
Well, when you look at people like Charlotte Green, I
Sure.
don't know if you guys are the Fuck It, I Quit girl.
Mm-hmm.
She went on. She was in Anchorage, Alaska. She was a reporter, and she quit
Okay.
because
On air, yeah.
she did the story on her. So what I found really interesting about her, like she showed up, she was great, she was very prominent, and I was like, oh my God, yes, Charlotte, and then she just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, getting the background from it, like the way she broke her story, she violated the code of ethics for journalists. And that's something they will never forgive her for.
Okay.
You know, so even though she jumped out there, she did something really radical and courageous, she's being shut down right now for that. So you do have to be very careful as to how you jump out there with this. Yes, it's a new industry. Yes, everything's exciting, different about it. And you do have to kind of jump out there in order to, you know, gain some sort of traction. But you have to be very calculated with that. Calculated
risk rather than like risk versus reward.
Right. Yeah, you can't be pulling a Kim Kardashian and be I'm on top of the industry now. Like, no.
That only works for certain people.
Exactly.
That already have money.
Exactly.
No, I can understand that. Like, you know, when we started doing our podcast, you know, it was one of those things where for the most part, it was like everybody was doing it. So we didn't want to step out in the wrong way. And I can see where there's a lot of like unwritten rules in the growing industry, and especially in DC, where you have like kind of the gray area of the federal versus the district and all of that. So I can.
Well, in the industry, period, because there's no blueprint. Everybody's doing everything new. So like you can literally create something just out of nothing right now. But again, how you do it and how you go about it and how you then get people to let go of the negative stigma and be like, okay, you're cool, I trust you.
It's crazy to me that we still have like pop-ups and stuff getting rated in DC, and yet I'm reading about like dudes in like Vegas that have like, there's like this 28-year-old kid out there who has like the biggest weed store in the world, I believe. Like it's like a multi-million-dollar like store, billion-dollar store. And I mean, it's like super nice, but like it blows my mind because it's like, yo, we live in the same country. Like, what the hell?
Exactly.
Like, it makes no sense.
You just cross one little imaginary line, and all of a sudden, everything is different.
Right.
And I think that's what kind of like when I start, I do a Grow the Industry series. So I do interviews with people around the nation and just like learning about what's going on in their state and how they're handling the laws, because everybody thinks once weed is legal, it's a free-for-all. A lot of people believe they can walk into DC because they see all the advertisements for pops up. They could just go in there and just buy some weed.
Right,
that's cool and that's legal. So I think it's getting people understanding that even one simple plant has so many different consequences when it comes to being caught in a state with the same amount,
right,
same product, but they're different consequences in the same country. It doesn't make sense. It's not fair, and we just need federal legalization.
So you do have I'm assuming it sounds like you're kind of connected with like other growers in other states and stuff like that have also legalized. Is there like any one particular state where it might be easier to navigate the laws?
Well,
that you know of.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of my personal favorite states is Massachusetts. I think
I didn't even know Massachusetts was on that.
They are. I met some really great people. I went to New York.
Right.
I think traveling too is a really good thing for people to do, to really, especially if you want to be part of the industry, to get a real understanding of how things work in different areas. But I met these people out of New York that started a cannabis cultural association. I'm like, in New York? I'm like, for what? You guys are like nowhere on this legalization spectrum.
Right.
So like, how is that? Like, why is this that you're starting this? And it was like minority based. And I said, okay, cool. Let me check it out, because I didn't really see anything like that in DC. So I met with them, and then they got wind that Massachusetts was the next on the ballot. So they left and went there and started another Massachusetts Consumers Recreational Association, and they've been really on top of the law as far as when I see legalization, recreational, full spectrum legalization, because they have the same laws as DC, except they actually are scheduled to go rec, like to have stores where you can actually physically walk in without a card and purchase it. So just to see how they're fighting to keep the home growers relevant and keep them in the market, to keep the little guys, small businesses on the forefront of the industry, making sure that everybody does get a piece of pie, and people not from California and Colorado and Oregon and Washington aren't, coming through and just eating up the market because they have, the experience, the money, and the resources. So I think Massachusetts is a good state to keep the eye on when it comes to what legalization looks like. Because Colorado is great. I think Denver is a wonderful place. But they're the guinea pig. They try, they fail, they try, they fail. So I think we've done enough trying and failing. Let's see what can work on a nationwide level. And that's what they're also trying to do. They're trying to implement a process and get the policies in order so it works nationwide, not just for Massachusetts.
Okay.
So I think that's a really good place to keep your eye on.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know that.
It kind of leads into a question that I did have, and that is that I hear a lot of people have conversations about the cannabis industry and the people that get involved with it, as far as how there might be a lack of Black representation in it, considering that it's always this stigma of Black people just smoking weed. And so I'm just wondering, in this, have you met like a lot of people or a lot of minorities that are getting into this industry, at least as far as the growing aspect of it, that are trying to take advantage of this?
Yes, I think that there's a great number of minorities that are interested in getting into the industry. I think that there are certain barriers that are faced when minorities do try to access the industry. Like, for instance, a lot of the events that they do have, a lot of professionals and people and experts involved are very expensive.
Sure.
They're like unrealistically expensive. And you have to getting there is the first battle, and actually keep paying to access the events. And I also just believe that the stigma is the biggest thing, because I live in Ward 7 in Washington D.C. and actually Ward 7 and Ward 8 were like two of the most popular areas to help legalize cannabis in Washington D.C. Yet most of the people don't have access to it based on their housing. But at the same time, trying to even have a conversation with my neighbor about it, trying to talk to them. Like, I met a guy at the bus stop trying to say, hey, I saw his child in a football uniform. I just left a convention about medical marijuana, and the doctor had recommended, like, if your child plays a contact sport, they should at least be taking a minimum amount of CBD. And I was like, hey, have you ever heard of CBD? You should look it up. Maybe you should consider it.
You're trying not to be like that crazy person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were just, no, that's poison. I'm not feeding that to my child. That's poison. And it was just like,
But it is proven that, like, I know exactly the report you're talking about, the CBD oil with brain hemorrhages, all of that,
Right. So it's just, I think that is the number one thing that stops people of color getting into it, because we've been persecuted for years so much negative in our communities. You know, people's families have been ripped apart because of the laws that were created around it.
And like looking at it from the outside, like as a white dude, like I have also noticed before that there have been like I've seen that, like especially with African American, like I've seen people that are about it, like, you know, don't have a problem with it. And then it's almost like there's this invisible line, and then there's people that are just strictly, they were raised like, my dad said, no, I cannot. My grandfather was, you know, all this, that, and the other, like, just no. Like, it is a strict no. And it's almost like it was like demonized to them a little bit. You know
was
what I mean?
Definitely, like, even when me coming out with my parents, like, I didn't tell anybody when I did the taping. Like, I just kept it to myself, because I didn't even know where to begin. Like, they came to my house and I'm growing weed, and like, you know, like, where do we start with this? Like, I'm going to be on TV about marijuana. Like, what, you smoke? Like, wait.
Right.
Like, let's back
We're
this
happy you're
up.
going to be on TV. However.
Right. And now my parents are like, oh my God, like, everybody knows. And like, I'm from I'm African, and you know, my parents, we're real conservative when it comes to like doing things that are taboo. So now she's like, oh my God, like everybody knows. Like first she was like, well, don't tell anybody. I was like, well, Mom, it's on TV. I kind of can't help that.
Right.
But then now you turn to come around, like, you know, we were having a little family meeting. My uncle was there. He was just like, hey, yeah, you know, I had some of them cookies.
It's always the uncle.
Yeah, you know. So they're doing it, you know, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Right.
And you know, even though like I kind of was like a little intimidated about the fact of being on TV and stuff, I think it's kind of helped. It's really helped like my family open up and have the conversation. Sure. Like, you know, now my parents, they're coming around to like getting an understanding of what it actually is and how it can benefit you health wise and things of that nature. And then, you know, I've got my launch topicals, so you know, they're coming around, which is great. And I think that
so she'll use like a topical thing, but like not like anything.
Yeah, she won't ingest it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's cool. Like, I can definitely see, like, the topical. Like, I know that, like, some of the creams and stuff they have for arthritis work wonders.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely. It's cool that you were able to, like, open up, like, the mind of, like... Because I get that, like, being that I moved to D.C., you know, I think, like, the year that, like, it was... The laws changed. Which, of course, like, in my family, being, like... They're pretty liberal from Southern Virginia, but... some like they have some like conservative out views, like for like, you know, right to bear arms and no weed and all that. So it's like yeah, like my pops was very much like when you don't have an option and you don't really give them an option, they have no other choice but to accept it, which, you know, being that you didn't, hey, I'm on this television show,
right, I
don't have an option over whether or not you see this.
Right, or if anybody else finds out, it is what it is. Yeah.
So does it ever, like, because I know we've seen your children here today, like, does it ever concern you that, like, one day, you know, you might get called into class and be like, hey, you know, like, you're a little bit open with your kids, like, so-and-so was talking about this, you know what I mean? And, like, does that bother you any at all, or do you think that that's just something where you're kind of ahead of the curve on?
I think I'm ahead of the curve on that because it's such a new industry and everything is, right now it seems so hard to access or get or break into.
Right.
By the time my kids are, you know, of working age, you know, being a trimmer at the dispensary, that's entry level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Feeding the plants nutrients, you know what I'm saying? That's like, that gets you paid a little bit more money.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think I'm ahead of that in exposing my children to, you know, growing and what I do. I'm just nervous that, you know, they'll pick up a cutting and like be like, hey guys, look what my mom did.
Right.
Because my daughter, she I was trimming the plants one day and she picks them up. She goes, oh, looks like a palm tree. And she made a little thing on the paper with the palm tree. She's like, I'm going to take this to school to show my teacher. And I'm like,
maybe not a good idea.
Right. So, I mean, but other than that, just having conversations about it, you know, like, they were having a conversation about, my neighbor was having a conversation, she watches our kids, and, you know, she was talking about it, and they had, you know, butted in the conversation and mentioned it, and then they were just like, oh my God, you shouldn't be talking about that, and they're like, what? It's just weed. And that's exactly what it is. It's just weed. It's just a plant. It's not that serious. I think the more open and honest that we are with, you know, our kids and communicating and educating them about it, I think then they are more likely to, you know, use it more responsibly.
Steve made a point about that earlier, you know, like kind of opening the conversation and not being taboo about it. And I think that again, you know, like with alcohol, like one of the reasons why we have a lot of binge drinkers is because like you can't do it until you're 21, and then like these kids go to college, they have immediate access to it.
Before that, high school,
right.
That first party where there are parents that allow you to drink.
Sure, but you know for a fact as soon as you get in high school, some upperclassman is buying for the pretty freshman. You know what I mean? Or you know,
outside the liquor store.
Yeah, exactly. Or you join the frat, or the dude outside the liquor store, and you just slide an extra 10. Yeah, exactly.
Get you whatever you need.
So like, it is cool that like you're able to have that conversation, because I do think that is something where like, you know, the youth don't need to be as afraid of it as we were, you know, growing up. And it was something where, you know, I used to be probably much like your parents, where it was like my parents instilled it to me, like, oh no, it's a bad thing. You can't, you know, it was like very Reagan-esque era, like don't do it.
Right.
And then after like first time I smoked, I was like, this is amazing. Like, it was like, what was the issue?
Right.
Like, and I never really understood that. Yeah. I definitely give respect for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
So another question I had, because you touched on this and you said that you went on a whim, and obviously it was a new industry financially to help you out. But other than just a financial benefit, does this industry help you out in any other ways, as far as like spiritual connections, physical?
You know, it has like I'm a busybody, so I love to move around. So it's really gotten me to like sit down and like be still and like focus on like what are my immediate surroundings and what's going on around me. And it's just been really therapeutic in that way, you know. And you do have a connection with your plants. Like when you're not right, your plants don't get right, because of course you don't give them the time and attention that you need. But it's just interesting how your plants connect with you, and they can really how they thrive is pretty much how you're thriving in your personal life.
Have you had that connection with the earth prior to this?
No. I was totally not. I was just like, I was anti getting dirty. I walk around my heels, and I'm like, yes, I'm too cute for that.
Right.
Cool.
But you know,
That's
yes,
awesome.
and it's opened me up. Actually, last summer, I did a gardening project for Ward 7. We grew the first pumpkin patch in Ward 7. And that was just that inspired me, like just growing weed. And I was like, well, I can do one with weed. Like, weed is cool. It's exciting. It's very time consuming. But I want to do more than that, you know. Let's get back to the basics, and that's again why I do my events. I do my growers events to encourage people to get growing. I think weed is a really great gateway plant to get people to growing, right? But like that should be a basic life skill. Everybody
I agree with you.
Have it's growing your own food. Like, what happens if all the grocery stores shut down and they're never going to open up again?
It's like I actually made a point to Steve a couple weeks ago, where I was like, just imagine, like, because I grew up on a farm, like I was like, just imagine for a second that like you don't have to buy vegetables, like just even that in itself, like saving that amount of money over the course of, and you know, even if it's just for the winter, like, you know, you harvest in the you know, fall and all of that, and then you know, you've got all that for the winter. Even for that little amount of time, like not having to buy this stuff is amazing. Like, and if you do have that ability, like, it's like a pack of seeds costs $1.
Right.
Like, come on.
Like, do you grow anything else besides weed?
Well, I mean,
like,
yeah. I mean, we
fruits, like for yourself, as far as eating and consumption.
Yeah. We have a balcony garden.
Cool.
This year, like I said, last year I had a plot at Letterer's Garden. It's DC. I think a lot of people.
That's like the community garden.
Yeah,
right?
those are community gardens where you get assigned a little plot,
Sure.
and you can go and grow whatever you want there. But DC is it's got like one of the largest park spaces in the nation, and it's like it's so small, but we have a lot of green space.
Okay.
So it's really kind of like no excuse, like living in the city and not being able to grow your own food. Like there's so many different ways and options that you have to be able to grow food. This year I'm really excited. I'm at the East Capitol Garden, and they have an aquaponics site in there too. That's run by UDC, which UDC is doing a lot of Yes, I love UDC, and I love what they're doing when it comes to agriculture. They're really trying to just get into that research part of how do we sustain the city,
right,
with the small amount of land that we do have on here that we can. So I like that. I'm really excited to work with the people there and get it growing.
And that's something that I've always thought would be interesting, and just to touch on like the agriculture thing was like, if we can focus more in being in a city like on agriculture, like I've always like when we saw the Black Panther movie, and then they did the Wakanda scene where they like you first get introduced to it, and it was like the agriculture and the architecture like all like embodied into one. Like I was like, why can't we build structures like that?
Right.
Like if it's part of our imagination, it's completely possible.
Yeah. Right.
Like so yeah. Like I think that in a city like this where you got like go out and garden in it. Like I wish we could do that in our backyard.
And I can't wait until I have my future home where I can integrate the planet and my house all in one. I have the vision.
Plus, it does like kind of bring you that sort of like, and I'm sure you get this with your plants. That like spiritualness, that connection to the earth.
Yeah, it definitely brings you a balance.
Do you play music?
Do you play them the different music? Do you
No, I have a grow partner, and when it comes to like a lot of my gardening projects, they pretty much run them, and that's what they do. They get their playlist together,
right,
and they'll tune me out too. And I'm like, I'm trying to have a conversation, and they're like, I'm dealing with the plants right now. I'm like, he's like, you gotta show them love. And I'm like, yeah.
They said plants have feelings.
They do.
It came out in the study. They respond to your emotions, and they respond to different stimuli in their environment.
Yeah, I believe that. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, I think we may be coming towards a close here. I have one final question, and that is: you've judged events before?
Yes, I've judged the DC Growers Cup. Was it 2 years? And then I did the. It's a Capital Cup and then the DC Growers Cup. Yeah.
What is it like judging an event?
Yeah. First off, what are those? Because I don't even know what those are. The Capitals Cup and the DC Growers Cup.
Yeah, the Capital Cup. I think that's like around. I always get these confused. I think the DC Growers Cup is in May. That's the original cup. Like that, the year they legalized, they started that.
And that's for local growers to come and show off your flour.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. And other products too.
Sure.
People do concentrates and edibles.
Okay, cool.
And then the DC Growers Cup is like later on in the year, like around fall, like around harvest season.
Okay.
And yeah, I've judged those a couple times. Typically you have to enter to judge.
Mm-hmm.
But I built relationships with some of the people that throw the events. Being a previous judge before, they just say, they have you come back on. But it's you're high for a very long time.
So like
are you
you're smoking it, right? Are you you're trying edibles, you're smoking, you're doing everything, drinks,
this last Growers Cup, DC Growers Cup, it was flowers and it was edibles.
And did they have the vape stuff too? Did they have the oils and stuff
I didn't get any concentrates in my judges pack, but they did have a couple people that did enter some concentrates. Actually, JP, I think he won the concentrates. He's a really great...
Wait, JP... What's his last name?
I don't know.
Zephyr?
No, it's just JP. I know that's like...
There's only a handful of JPs.
Yeah. Well, we know a gentleman named JP, and he actually works at the Medical Wellness Center. So, yeah.
I don't think he works in the dispensary.
Okay,
He does
gotcha.
a lot of, the local grower stuff. He enters in a lot of competition. He has some great products.
Right.
Shout out to the JPs.
Right.
Shout out to the
Yeah.
JPs in DC. That's the third JP I've heard in DC.
But they give you the judge's kit, and they typically give you a couple of days. I think with DC, it being a new industry and people getting new and acclimated to doing things, they're trying to figure it out. So sometimes they don't give you a lot of time to like judge and turn it around. So sometimes I'll record it and I'll just have people that I know that are part of the community come through and help me judge.
Oh, so like they give you like a bag of swag, and then you take that home, and then you have to deliver a deadline.
I have to submit my judge's sheet.
Right, within a certain deadline. Mm-hmm. And then you said normally it's about 3 days they give you.
Yeah, it's been like 3 days to a week now. They've been lenient. One time they did. They gave me like 7 samples, and they gave me like 48 hours.
You're like, I'm going to be asleep half the time.
Right, and I was just like, I'm just high.
My dreams were nice.
Right.
But you can definitely see the quality of products in DC getting a whole lot better. So I'm really excited about that. And I just, I want people to grow. That's it. Bottom line. We want to keep the grow laws as they are. We want to keep them intact, and we want to grow our local grow economy, our local grow community. We have a lot of people that do some great products when it comes to growing. They provide soils, they provide testings, they provide classes, everything of that nature. So if you live in DC, I just say get out there and grow. Speaking
of which, so for our listeners that live in DC, do you have anything that you want to plug as far as like upcoming classes or any type of events that you've got going on?
Yes, May is coming up, and May for me is a time of blossoming. So we are going to get outdoors. I actually linked up with some really great people that are allowing me to use their space. So outdoor space, we're going to do some outdoor classes, and we're going to go through the growing stages of the plant where we're going to grow and everybody's going to harvest the plant together. So we're going to do weekly classes. So they're going to be starting in May. So I'm on Instagram or Facebook as GROWITHLISA. It's 1W. And if you just link up with me there, then you can get on the list, and we can get you signed up for some classes and get you growing.
So y'all heard it. Go to Instagram, GROWITHLISA, 1W.
1W.
Hit her in the DM. Be respectful.
Thank you.
Right.
And Lisa, thanks again for joining us.
No, thank you. This is a really great time. This is an awesome show.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And we also wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsors at Golden Pineapple DC, and also Hemp Kettle Tea, which we are enjoying today. I had the vanilla honey. It was
vanilla honey.
Vanilla
honey bush.
Honey
rooibos.
bush. Vanilla honey bush rooibos.
It has
It's good.
organic honey bush, red rooibos tea, Canadian hemp seed, and vanilla bean extract.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
And be sure to head over to the YouTube page at Tokens TV. We're going to have the video posted within the week. And we're also going to be sitting down with Tabitha of Golden Pineapple DC to talk about her token snack of the week.
And check out our other videos, y'all. We got a bunch of videos up now. We just dropped them all this week. There's about 6 different videos of token snacks and tokens episodes.
Steve's been putting in work.
Hey.
Well,
leave us feedback, comments, and likes. And
thanks again, Lisa.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys later.
I'm trying to make a way, hit the bank so ends can meet. Feed my family. If you don't grind, you weak. That was me about a year ago. Scared to be a